What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Jam Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me as always is Mr. Brian Schultz. Brian, when I was watching, I think I was watching Christian Harloff, and then they started showing these chairs of actors' names on the chairs, and these actors' names on the chairs are the people that are going to be in Avengers Doomsday. And I'm watching this. And I'm looking at other people watching this and hearing what people are saying, and everybody was complaining about this structure of introduction. Everybody was complaining. I'm sure they weren't complaining too much as they were getting super chats, so thank them for that. But everybody was complaining. I want to ask you this: was it marketing genius on on behalf of the person that thought of this? And if it was me pitching this, it would have been me saying, this is going to be painful for a lot of people, but we want people to just talk about the movie. We want this to be etched into their minds, regardless of how painful it is. We're going to get people to complain about how we're doing this, but at least everybody's going to be thinking about it, good or bad. People are going to be thinking about this. What were your thoughts on how they revealed the actors for Doomsday? And I've read that this isn't the totality of the people that are going to be in this movie. There's still yet another list of people that are going to be showing up. Perhaps they save it for San Diego Comic-Con. Who knows what they're doing? But what were your thoughts?
So unequivocally, unambiguously, the answer to your question is yes. It was marketing genius. You can't. At the end of the day, like, proof's in the numbers, right? This is the kind of thing that, like, you know, what did Rasheed Wallace say? Ball don't lie, right? Numbers don't lie, right? So this thing, just to give you a sense of how effective this actually turned out to be, in an era where we have certainly been on this growing train of superhero fatigue, and has Marvel lost it, and do people even care? Because some of the numbers have been going the wrong way, right? Box office going the wrong way. Here are numbers that went the right way. 275 million views, day of, 3.1 million social mentions, 5 times the volume of the Deadpool and Wolverine Super Bowl trailer, which is the most watched trailer of all time. Let me repeat that. 5 times the mentions and volume of the most watched trailer of all time. I don't know what to say. If I'm the person who came up with that, I just put that on my office wall and say, where's my promotion? Because you can't argue with that.
Yeah.
So the short answer is yes. It lasted 5.5 hours. It got people talking. There were 55 different terms that trended on X throughout the day related to the announcement. Hashtag Avengers Doomsday was the #1 trending item for over 7 hours. After 24 hours, the channel itself was number 2 on trending, still number 2 on trending, despite it being nothing more than 26 blank empty chairs and 1 chair with Robert Downey in it. So this was probably Marvel's best success since Deadpool and Wolverine came out, and probably one of the top 3 things they've done since Avengers Endgame. I don't know how else to say it. Like, this was a home run of home runs in terms of presentation. And this movie badly needed it. Badly needed it.
So as everyone was complaining about that, we can't stay on this long for this, and they were still there complaining every minute and just finding a way to stick with it, you know? And they did. Yeah, it was definitely, while I was watching it and watching other people watch it, I was trying to get even Freddie or somebody so that we can watch it and talk about what each of these characters meant for the movie. What were you thinking in regards to the story?
I think the rumor mill is going to be pretty close on this one. And it's funny because, like, on Superman, there's been a lot of rumor mill that, like, no one's that close on what this movie's actually about at its core, like the plot points. I think this one, people are on it. By confirming that Tom Hiddleston is in this movie, to me, is a pretty big drop that, like, Loki at the end of time is a significant piece and MacGuffin to this story. I think confirming that the Fantastic Four, which we've known for a while, was going to be in this movie, is a significant piece toward the new MCU that we've talked about. I think the fact that so many of the 20th Century Fox X-Men show up in this is, to me, a confirmation of things starting to get formally tied off. Mm-hmm. So that I would say those would be my main takes. And if you notice in my main takes, what is not on there is the current Avengers roster, because they just don't matter. Yeah. The few of them who made the list, to me, are kind of like whatever.
Yeah.
And we could talk about some of them who didn't, who probably will be in the next one. We could talk about names who didn't, who Marvel already teased. There's always room for more. But I think we also got another news scoop that made me think about, we need to start thinking about a broader set of movies as more connected than we probably imagined. We need to start thinking about Fantastic Four, Doomsday, Spider-Man 4, Secret Wars as all part of the same thing, because they got to make up for lost time with the Kang situation. They have to create movie where there is no movie.
Yeah.
And so we got another piece of news after this as far as who might be joining the Fantastic Four movie, when I was like, aha, you guys are spreading this out because you realize you have to make all these movies make money, but you also have to get this single narrative cleaned up. And you just can't do it in one film. So you have to kind of now use what you got on your schedule to get us to Secret Wars with some hope that this is all going to make sense.
Would you say it's better to say create a movie where there is no movie, but instead say create a story where there is no story?
Correct. That's what I'm saying, is that like before, when they gave us the calendar, they're like, okay, let's say there's 6 movies between now and Endgame. So you kind of know like, hey, we got 6 slots. We got 14 hours to complete our narrative. In this case, like they're on top of it. Like they're out of, that's my point, is there's not like another 7 slots on the calendar, right? All we've got is Fantastic Four, the 2 Avengers movies themselves, and Spider-Man. That's kind of it. So you have to make your narrative work within the context of those 4 films. And I think they're doing this. We'll see how successful, but I think they're using what they have at their disposal to generate excitement and try to spread this cleanup of the multiverse saga into more than one place.
What did you think of Simu when his name was introduced?
Oh, I texted you. I said, okay, so we can talk about this list. I can't do it. Let's not do everyone on the list. There's 27 people, but let's do a little bit of like, have fun with this.
Yeah.
The person who was most excited to see his own name on a chair, Simu. That would have been like on the day of the NFL draft where they cut to the family viewing party at home. That's what I wanted for Simu Liu when his chair came up. That dude would have been like cartwheeling around his house. Like, his family would have been jumping up and down. Like he's on the phone to Kevin, be like, "You're in it." He said, "You're in it. I made it. I made it." He was the most excited that he made the cut.
I would have been, if I were Chris Hemsworth, I would have been a little bit rubbed the wrong way for his name to pop up first out of all those.
Why
names.
Is that?
Huh?
Why? Why is that? You want to be last?
No, I wanted to be next to Loki, not the first guy. You know what I'm saying? I would have probably introduced what's her name, the Ghost character, as number 1. All those, I would say, lesser known characters are not. Chris Hemsworth is a big deal. You know, Thor is a big deal.
I think that's why he was first. I got to be honest. I think they wanted an OG first and an OG of sorts last. And if you think about it, the way they structured it, they only had the 2 of them really available. I think all of the originals are in the Secret. By the time we get to the end of Secret Wars, all of them will have shown up. But the way they did this announcement, if they weren't going to have Johansson or Renner, really was going to have to be one of Downey, Chris Evans, or Chris Hemsworth was going to have to be, in my opinion, be in that leadoff spot. And so they didn't use Evans because I think they're going to use him somewhere else. Downey was going to be last for obvious reasons because he's being Doom. I think Hemsworth being first actually made sense. But I agree with you. I think it would have been cool if they had Hiddleston second. I actually would have liked it that way. 1-2 punch out of the gate. Like, we're going to get that. These guys are going to be on screen together again, at least one more time.
Well, at least that's the hope that they're on screen together.
They will. They will. They're not. They're not. For all the things Marvel's done wrong, they're not blowing that.
Who else were you like? Okay,
Namor. I actually, this was one I wasn't totally sure if he, even though there had been Doom connections to Wakanda Forever, I wasn't sure if, given the way this story has morphed, if how much we were going to pull on the Black Panther 2 kind of universe for this film. I knew Shuri would be in it for obvious reasons, but like when I saw Namor's name, I was like, oh, I'm just curious. I'm just curious what his role in this is, because I like the performance, but it almost felt like with everything else going on at Marvel, it was risking getting kind of shunted to the side.
I'm sure. Again, everybody was complaining about how long this was and how they did this. Listen, if they did it again, I'm pretty sure people were complaining, but they'll be watching. They will be watching to see who else, right? But the way it ended, Brian, because we were perhaps waiting for something grand. And I'm sure RDJ thought of himself as grand. It's similar to, you know what it reminded me when the doors open and then the figure walked in? It reminded me of Incredible Hulk at the end, that end credit scene with Ross.
Oh, yeah, at the bar.
Yes.
Put the team together.
Yes.
See,
again, this is what I didn't. I was like, is it just about you, man? Is it just about you?
So I think that moment, I didn't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Only because I knew it was coming. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like I kind of was like, I knew what I was getting. So I wasn't like put off by it, because I'm like, I know who's going to be last, and I know he's going to be in the chair. Like I know that's going to happen. But I think if he wanted to score real points for the character, he should have done it in costume with the mask on. Then I would have given him the respect of like, you didn't show your face. I saw your name on the chair, but as a reveal for how Doom was going to look like, which I think would be a moment in and of itself, I would have given you much more credit if you had, and you still could have been a little cheeky because we're not doing the movie yet. You could have done this to the mask the same as he did, but I would have felt a little differently about it. Said, oh, this Downey is trying something different. Whereas what showed up in the chair was Tony Stark in his suit.
RDJ.
Acting like, well, people say they're one in the right, life and art are kind of intertwined there, right? But that's my point. Iron Man was in the chair, not Victor Von Doom.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like, I knew he was going to be the last guy, I felt like he was going to be the last chair to be announced, but for him to be the only one to come out was like, it was unnecessary to me.
Yeah. I don't know, but that's the only way it could go. I mean, to my mind, it's like, again, to get him back, the negotiations to get him back, like, you got no say in these matters. Like, this is how this works.
Yeah.
That's how this works. A couple others. 20th Century Fox X-Men. Okay. And who was on the list for this reveal? What was your reaction? Because I have one in particular where I was like, oh, interesting.
To me, the one that I sort of like, okay, hopefully they can do him right this time. James Marsden.
Bingo.
Because, obviously, his character died.
He's out.
Yeah. And now he's back. Are they going to do him? Have they heard the cries of those fans who has said that they did him wrong? They did him dirty. That character shouldn't have been presented in that light, which was useless. Mm-hmm. Right? And now we get him back. So this is a second chance. That is the character that I'm looking, I would say, more, because I don't know if you saw it, Brian, there's a leak of him in costume of the X-Men 97.
Oh, the real costume?
Yes. There's a leak photo. There's a leak photo.
I bet he looks good, by the way.
Yeah, he's the perfect. He's
physically, yeah.
They messed up because he is the perfect Scott Summers. And Marsden is good. He's always been a good actor in everything that he's pretty much done. But
I think so. I'll be interested because I think Marsden today is better able to do it than Marsden was 25 years ago.
I think so because he's not going in as just a guy doing a job. I think he understands the character this time, maybe, and has heard perhaps what people have had to say about his Cyclops, and wants to please those which are millions of fans, and do that character the right way as he should have.
But I think Marsden is a better actor now. He was a young guy when he got Scott Summers in the late 90s, right? He had done some of those like kind of tween. He had done some of those like teen younger actor type movies that became sort of cult hits. Marsden now, like you watch him in Paradise where he's the president, he's really good, like as a dramatic actor. You watch him on Jury Duty where he's doing a quasi-reality complete comic character. He's really good in that show. Like Marsden as actor is better now than he was. And I think for Scott Summers as prime of life leader of the X-Men, he's actually more age appropriate or looks more age appropriate now than he did. So I actually think I had the same reaction because of what happened in Last Stand of like, how are they going to, like, did he get that call? And he was like, y'all have the right number? You do know, right? Like, you do know. Did you guys see Last Stand? He's like, I know what people don't like it, but did you see what happened to me?
I think it has to do with Days of Future Past in that movie.
Probably. I think you're probably right. But that was the one that opened my eyes the most. And I will say, like, if they do bring him back, they didn't announce her, but do you feel like Famke Janssen has to also come back for this to have real resonance? Because do we need a Scott and Jean moment, or do you not care? You just want Scott?
It's always been Scott's identity for his association with Jean Grey. I don't know what she looks like now.
She still looks like Famke Janssen. Yeah. I mean, she's older, but yeah. Yeah.
I just never.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know if she goes the way of Top Gun Maverick, where they didn't get the original girl to come back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, she didn't want to come back, so yeah, and she was
But will she be in? I don't know. I don't know, because again, Phoenix has always been the cheat code. She can't be the cheat code here because this is the end of that Fox universe.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I'm saying if you're retconning Marsden in, then you could presumably bring back Jean Grey, not Phoenix.
Yes.
So I was just curious. I wouldn't be surprised if she was in it because we know there's other people coming. But yeah, that's the one that caught my eye. Okay, I'm going to make a prediction.
Okay.
The actor on the chair who is most likely to have a bigger part than you would think because of what the actor has become since he last played the part, Sebastian Stan, even relative to Thunderbolts, where we know he's kind of a co-lead, is going to be bigger in these two movies than you might think, because Sebastian Stan has become a much bigger star since Endgame. He won a Golden Globe. He was nominated for an Oscar. Sebastian Stan is a prestige A-list actor now. He is in demand as a lead. Disney every day kicking themselves that they didn't make him Luke Skywalker when they should have. Like, I'm just saying, I think that always tends to matter.
Yeah.
In ensemble movies. I think he's going to have a bigger part, and they will, in the rewrite, somehow, some way, maybe it's as an entry point to Steve, who knows, but Winter Soldier will have a bigger role within this cast than you would expect. That's my prediction. Because of Stan's notoriety as an actor.
Yeah, it's quite possible. I never thought of that. We haven't gotten to see Thunderbolts yet, which is certainly a highly expected movie. There's been a lot of talk about it being really, really good. So
Well, he looks like the co-lead, right? It looks like him and Florence Pugh are like, that's the top pairing of that. That's what it looks like in the trailer to me, at least. They're the top two in that movie. But
I'm not even gonna guess, but I'm pretty sure the name that popped up and you was like, really, yo? Channing Tatum.
yes.
When I saw that name, I was like, really, yo? That's all Ryan Reynolds pushing. That's all that is. How he
Well, that's
fits
how you,
into all of this, I have no idea.
well, that's how you know that, like, they didn't announce either Ryan or Hugh, but you obviously know they're in the movies. But by announcing Channing Tatum, you're kind of announcing those two without announcing them. That's how I reacted to that.
Yeah.
It was like a way of being like, the Reynolds influence is right here. You just don't need to say his name in this list. Probably because, honestly, Ryan Reynolds was probably like, I'm too big to be in this list. I got to be my own entrance. Wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me.
Yeah.
Like, and so, yes, I completely agree. And whatever. I would have been much more of that branch. I would have been much more excited. Not that he won't be in it, but I would have been much more excited had Snipes been on one of the chairs than Tatum.
We'll get to that later.
We're going to be one blade. He might be right.
Word up, man. Word up. Yeah, any other names that you see was like, okay.
Well, now I think you start to get to the category of who wasn't there, actually more than who was.
Let me ask you this, because we had talked about this some time ago in terms of what we like. Who are you going to get? This guy, he's like 80 years old, Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart. What were your thoughts when they were introduced?
Well, inevitable. Much easier for Stewart because he can be in his chair. So, and you know, I mean, McKellen, yeah, look, I mean, they were going to do it. I mean, they still got the voices, they still got the gravitas. Can they still pull off the helmet? And like, who knows? I don't happen to think their part really goes past this movie much.
Oh no,
like I kind of tend to, like, this is to end them, right?
Yeah,
they're in this movie
any X-Men
to get
character in that is done. Perhaps not Channing Tatum. If Ryan Reynolds has anything to do with it, he probably continues, but. I think that X-Men run is done. We're going to see them put forth a good effort, but at the end of the day, it's over. And this is their swan song, I would say.
Yeah, I think the point of having that roster there was to kind of let you know this is the final closure, and like anyone who wasn't mentioned is probably going to be in Secret Wars. So Halle Berry, like I said, you know, obviously Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds. I think some of them will even be in this movie, but they're ending that unit. This is one of the branch timelines that's going to be dispatched by Doom. The other thing I thought of in the back of my mind was I think we're gonna regret that Doctor Strange scene even more when we get through with this.
Which scene is that?
The Illuminati scene. Because it's like we've already seen Professor X get killed on screen.
Multiple. I mean,
you know what I mean?
He's died a few times. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, like.
There's just another one.
Yeah, I feel like some of these were kind of getting into the like you're losing that impact because you keep doing it, and like
are we going to care when it's done?
That's what I'm saying. Like, and that scene, because it didn't add enough to Doctor Strange 2, ultimately I'm gonna be like, did you waste it? I think you can get away with the Last Stand one only because that movie's far enough in the past and people didn't like it. It didn't become memorable enough at the time to where like I think a lot of people will kind of gloss over that one.
Yeah.
But the Doc Strange 2 one, no. Like, I think losing some of those characters, if we lose them again, will be problematic.
Do you think we're going to get a better version of what we got in the Marvels with regards to Hank McCoy, Kelsey Grammer's Beast? Are we going to get like a better version of what he looks like?
Well, I mean, I hope it's actually going to be him this time, not just like a.
Because he was dope. He's, to me, personifies Beast and his.
The costume looked fine,
huh?
The costume looked fine 20 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Why we got to CGI his costume? Like,
but can he? I mean, is he like? Can he move around? I mean, how old is he? You know what I'm saying?
Stunt guy in the costume can do it.
I mean, I'm thinking that they're gonna improve upon what they did in that, and go the route of the Thanos, the Hulk sort of situation to sort of make him look. We're going to get a lot of X-Men 97 sort of look. Classic.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And I think, Wolverine being in his classic suit at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine is kind of like a foreshadowing of that. Yeah. But I don't think they're in the movie that much. Do you think their parts are huge? I don't.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I think it's like one or two scenes, one set piece for Doom to kill them off, and that's it. So we know there's others coming, right? So notables that were not announced. So no Young Avengers, thank God. No Brie Larson. Not sure if she's coming back. OGs, right? No Scarlett Johansson, no Jeremy Renner, no Chris Evans. But literally within 24 hours of that list coming out and that presentation, there was a rumor that Chris Evans is being added to
Fantastic Four.
And that's what officially got me onto the some of the chairs who are not in Doomsday might be on the set of Spider-Man 4 and on the set of Fantastic Four. And that's the spreading out effect. It adds a little star power to all those projects. It weaves in the cameos to all those projects. And now you can splice in more narrative to where this is, Fantastic Four is not going to be an Avengers movie. We know that, but it's going to clearly lay groundwork for what we see in some of those other movies and also probably set up a new direction for the MCU. So if Spider-Man 4 is Avengers 5.5, these movies are all linked. And when I saw the Chris Evans thing, I was like, yeah, I get what you're doing, and it would not be surprised if we see more of that. And it's like, Tom Holland's name wasn't on the Avengers Doomsday list. It's like, but maybe he's in fantasy. These people can show up anywhere, and I would not be shocked at this point. So any thoughts from your side? Any reactions to who wasn't there or who you like? We know some of these people will be, but just anyone that you were surprised wasn't in the Doomsday list?
Chris Evans, certainly. Because he's a big name. I revere his name more than I do RDJ. To me, RDJ is like a second, even though watching Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, he's always, RDJ brings it. Obviously, I get and I understand why they got him. I just don't get why they got him to play Doom. Again, I'm going to say it again. It would have been easy for me to get if Tony Stark came out and said, I had a life model decoy. I actually had a life model decoy. But he didn't want to play Tony Stark. He wanted to play something else. And again, if you listen to our previous show where we talk about RDJ and what he is supposed to be doing in this film, he's supposed to be tricking these people into believing that he is Tony Stark, and then he changes whatever. If that's it, I don't know how well it works for this roster, because some of these people, obviously Chris Hemsworth, it'll be interesting, Brian, because a lot of these characters may not know who Tony Stark is, especially the X-Men side. I don't know how Chris Hemsworth falls into this dilemma. I see the connection with Loki. I was surprised. I would say the surprise for me is not having Cumberbatch in there.
Okay.
That's the surprise, I think, in thinking about it.
And he said he's not in Doomsday. He said he's big in Secret Wars, not in Doomsday, for what it's worth. And I actually don't think that might be total. I don't think that's necessarily total actor BS.
Yeah.
Because he said, I'm actually a major factor in Secret Wars. He's like, I'm just not part of Doomsday. I bet you he's in Spider-Man 4, though, because he was in No Way Home. So I actually think that's a little bit of if you're looking for how's he talking out of both sides of his mouth, he's saying, I'm in Secret Wars, not in Doomsday, but he's left open a blank there where I think he actually is in Spider-Man 4.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not caught up in the whole figuring out how all of this is going to work. He's just fed information. He's just not quite sure of what's going on.
Well, they stayed away from certain movies entirely, right? There's no Doctor Strange representation, right? So if you said Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Wong, none of those characters are on this list. They stayed away from the Captain Marvel verse, right? So no Brie Larson, no Kamala Khan, no Teyonah Parris, right? So they kind of just didn't include. It doesn't mean they're not in it, but maybe they're somewhere else, and then maybe they're only in Secret Wars. So they did definitely slice off entire movies worth, if you will, of people.
I would do this, Brian. I would get Brie Larson to come back, give her a few $1 million, because what's a few $1 million now, right? Get her to come back and have Rogue take her power. She's in a coma or she's dead. Who knows? But that's how I would bring her in, because Rogue needs to be Rogue.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Needs to be able to fly.
Having her steal Captain Marvel's powers, I think, is a big thing. I think they have to do it for Rogue to be Rogue, Brian. It can't be her ability is just to take people's powers. Can't be just that.
No.
She has to be Rogue in terms of her abilities, flight, and she gets it from somewhere, and it's from Captain Marvel. Who knows if they pay that off? But again, Doomsday is supposed to kill off the Fox universe, so perhaps they don't even do it in this film. Hopefully they do it in the future. And with
so
more
a win,
coming,
though. A win for Marvel. I mean, we got to call it a win for Marvel. We can argue the merits of what's in it, but like, they got people buzzing finally about this movie.
The curiosity is there. They built the curiosity. Bravo to the guy that thought of this, who perhaps was in the room and people looking at him crazy because of how long this was and all the complaints. I'm pretty sure they read all the comments. Everybody hated this, but they got the numbers up, and now it's etched into everyone's mind. So when this movie pops up, everybody's going to go see it. Regardless if the word of mouth is horrible, people are going to go see it.
That might be the whole mantra of this end to the multiverse saga. You hated it, but you had to see it. That's going to be the whole thing. Disney don't care. They don't care about, they're like, that's the thing. It'll validate everything we've complained about. It's like, if they get your money and they get your money more than once and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you can hate it, but as long as you show up.
Yeah, you're going to pay for it somehow. So all of this brings us to, I mean, we've talked about the Russos. We've talked about the ingredients necessary to make this work, because we haven't gotten enough cohesive storyline that gets us excited to see how this all ends. So yes, they decided to bring back the Russos. They brought back the team pretty much.
Yeah.
But given their latest endeavors outside of the MCU, they haven't been successful at all. I mean, they've had some interesting participation in some projects, but them as directors, it hasn't worked out for them. And then we find out, and I was surprised when the names of Marcus and McFeely, and only one of them is coming back, correct, for this, right?
Correct.
They were involved in Electric State, which was a $300 million movie for Netflix that if you go look at Rotten Tomatoes and you see what we're talking about.
Came and went.
This causes to say they have to be nervous about the prospects. Again, they gave us 4 amazing films. Can they do it again is the question. And Kevin Feige is a bit nervous about the quality of film, because I don't think Kevin Feige just wants $1 billion at the box office or $2 billion. I don't think that's cool if we get $3 billion, but he wants people to feel what they felt in Infinity War, Endgame. He wants the big moments. He wants to get the memes out there on Instagram or wherever on social media of people going crazy at some of the scenes that we saw in previous films.
Yeah.
Feige is nervous about the Russos. Your thoughts?
So this story felt like a combination of no news and maybe news. The no news part was like, Kevin's going to be very hands-on with Avengers 5 and 6. I'm like, well, duh. I mean, like, but he wasn't hands-on with Avengers 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
Like, of course. Like, I don't care who's directing this movie, right? Nolan, Spielberg, Scorsese, it doesn't matter. Like, Kevin Feige will be hands-on with the crown jewel of the Marvel Enterprise. That's not news. The news embedded in this story to me is this idea that like there's like an implication of like he didn't really want to bring them back. That's the like, is that what's really going on here? Because the article the scoops make it sound like he's skeptical that they can recapture the magic. He doesn't trust that they're the right directors for these projects, and that's why he's going to be all over them for these movies. If that's the case, does that mean he was ordered to rehire them? And this is not and that all of this director reshuffling that went from Destin Cretton to the Russos and so forth, does that reflect a rift between sort of the Iger level and the Feige level? That to me is the like question within this story. Because the idea of like Kevin Feige being, in the room and overseeing, like, that's not, of course he better be, of course he is. Like, yeah. So I don't know if like, maybe I'm over reading into that, but just the way that it was put out, like if he's the one who made the call and he's the one who asked them to come back, why would he then be like, I don't trust
hands
them?
off? Yeah. Why would he be playing golf while they're doing their thing?
Yeah. Like, so if he's the one who initiated this reunion, obviously it would be in part because he trusts them. So if he doesn't trust them, it implies that he didn't vote for their return to me or had to be talked into it or pushed into it.
I think whomever he got into it, I mean, yes, and whoever he would have gotten, he would have been involved in the creation of this. But the fact that he's nervous about the Russos doing it is telling. And it's unlike for us, seeing what the Russos have done outside of the MCU brings, again, there's hope because of their connection to what they've done and their familiarity to what has transpired, and perhaps their ability to grab those situations and create a compelling story. That's the hope, that you're getting people who are familiar with this, right? There has to be worry. There has to be worry. I would be worried if I were Kevin Feige. I'm like, yo, I would be like, if I was cool with them, I'd be like, yo, what happened there, yo? What happened with Electric State? What? And I wouldn't be like, like in a confrontational sort of, but I would be like, yo, what happened there, yo? Why was that whack? Why did it need to be $300 million? Talk to me about that. Because now we've given $400 million to do these films, to do one film, and then whatever else comes along with that for the next one. It's like, yeah, there's nervousness, and there's not nervousness that Russos can't do it. I would think it's nervousness that we've reached the finish line in terms of people actually wanting this. For me, there's just curiosity as to all of this right now, right? You haven't built a compelling storyline that has me excited for this.
Yeah. That's the key. Like, I got to be honest, like, the Russos outside the MCU, the track record speaks for itself.
Yes.
And I think the latest black eye is that Amazon is throwing in the towel on the whole Citadel universe, right? I mean, as they should. I mean, now they got full control of Bond. Who needs the Russos spending $300 million a season on Citadel? Supposedly we get one more season that by all accounts is terrible. The first one wasn't that good, but now they got Bond, so they got the real deal. But I think the question that's circulating around all of this is kind of like what really made the Infinity Saga work to the degree that it did, and who deserves the most credit for that. Like, I think that's really what we were asking, because you kind of are like, we have some of the band back together, but we don't have all of the band back together. And to your point, how much of it is a sunk cost because the groundwork has failed? Like if this movie is disappointing, I'm not prepared to say it's solely going to be because of the Russos losing their way, because they're being handed a pretty crappy deck. Like, let's be fair to them. Like, they're not coming in. Winter Soldier was in 2014, 5 years before Endgame. And we've talked about it many times. Like, between that movie and Guardians of the Galaxy, that is the true inflection in Marvel. That is the moment where Marvel goes from a nice, successful, wow, they pulled it off experiment to a global, unstoppable phenomenon. But they're coming into the mess now. Like, this is a mess, and they're being asked to fix it. If they're not successful in fixing it, it's not all on them. It's not. Like, it's like there's been so many mistakes already made. But what I am interested to see is, for example, we know that, like, James Gunn script doctored every step of the way. He's not here. Who's to say if you just have one of Marcus and McFeely, but you don't have Gunn in the room at times? Maybe that's the secret sauce they miss. Like, we don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
And there'll be no total way to tell. The other thing is, like, Kevin today is not Kevin 5 or 10 years ago. Like, part of the reason I'm sort of skeptical of this whole scoop is, like, he is Mr. Nostalgia right now. He is Mr. Living in everything he's done is like, I'm trying to recapture the portal scene. I'm trying to recreate things I've already done, recreate feels, recreate genre. Like, he seems to be as much a victim of his own success and stuck in his own past as anyone right now, at least from the outside. So I don't know. Like, am I a little more concerned because the Russos didn't go on to have banner success? Yeah, maybe. But, like, I also just feel like the task is not all about them. They're not, like, if I was to rate, like, what are the biggest reasons Avengers 5 and 6 will not be successful? I don't think Joe and Anthony Russo are in my top 3. I don't. Right. Bad story up to now is number 1 by far. Like, a failure to establish meaningful, compelling new Avengers. Those are the 2 things. And then the third is going to be kowtowing to Downey too much in a bad take on Victor Von Doom. To me, those are the 3 reasons these movies will not work. The Russos, Marcus McFeely, like, even Kevin Feige's involvement, to me, like, that's not really the story. The story is really they've missed on the first 2 things on that list, and we're nervous that what Downey's going to do is not going to be truly epic as a villain.
Anything else, Brian?
Well, I will say, though, for all having said all that, there will be a perception that Marvel is unsavable, is too big to save, because people from the outside will say, well, you had Feige, you had the Russos, you had the writer, you had all these stars, and if the movie still stinks and people don't show up and the box office is Justice League level disappointing, I think people will say this IP is toast. Like, I think people will say that, for better or for worse, that, like, it's had its day.
I don't think people will say the IP is toast. People will say superhero genre is falling out of favor. We need to do other things, whatever. He-Man, Voltron. But I think is the caretakers of this. They're done. They're toast.
Correct. That's what I mean. The IP in the hands of Disney is over.
Yeah.
Because this is the perceived A-team got back together and failed to generate next level excitement.
Yeah. So let us know in the comment section below what you guys, obviously, for the most part, most people will seem to agree that the Avengers Doomsday roster announcement was a little bit overboard, but they accomplished what they needed to accomplish in terms of tattooing the Avengers Doomsday movie and whatever else comes after that into our brains. And they've sort of let us know that there's more to come. And we're going to sit here and wait to see. I mean, it's good for us because we got a lot to talk about. But will it bring back the glory days? That is the question. People will be there that first weekend. I think that first weekend is going to be crazy because people are going to want to see, regardless of people saying this movie is whack, don't go see it. Nah, I'm going to go see it. because I've invested too much time already. And I need to see how this ends. Right? So they accomplished that, and bravo to them for this experiment that worked out well. I think it's perhaps it's just a one-time thing. Perhaps there'll be variations of this. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think about what's coming up next for Avengers, Doomsday, Secret Wars, and everything in between now until then. It doesn't look... Again, the curiosity is high. Excitement is not there. Excitement is not... There's one dude that say, I've never been more... Really? You've never been more excited? You've never been more excited. You weren't excited for Endgame? I'm pretty sure you were, but your level of excitement is higher than that?
There was I once saw an interview with Larry Bird where a guy interviewed him and said, "This is one of the 5 greatest moments of my life." And Bird just looked at him and said, "I think you need a better life." That's what I'm thinking when I hear something like that.
I think you need to pick up some hobbies or something like that. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think really about all of this. Is your excitement there? Is your excitement level anywhere near before Endgame, before Infinity War, before any other movies that came out previously that you were excited for? Is this excitement level for the rest of the story that we're going to be shown, is it there or higher? Let us know in the comment section below what you guys think, and we'll see you next time on a Nerd Gen Report.